Good Monday evening, and welcome to another episode of The Political Chick on CBS's online radio network, chataboutit.com. Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us. I hope you had a very nice week. It was a very busy week as far as the political realm goes. Yes, I'm sure you heard General Stanley McChrystal was removed from office. And also Democratic Senator Robert Byrd passed away last night of Virginia. And Elena Kagan's Supreme Court nomination hearings have begun. Well, President Obama took swift action removing General McChrystal when he heard about that Rolling Stone magazine article. We're going to talk all about that. Ryan Mauro, founder of WorldThreats.com and national security advisor to the Christian Action Network and intelligence analyst for the Asymmetric Warfare and Intelligence Center. Whew, that's a mouthful. He has previously joined the program. He's coming back to talk about whether getting rid of McChrystal was the right move, or was it just something political to say, hey, I'm not going to accept any insubordination of my staff, even if it means we're going to put the rest of the world at risk. Well, General David Petraeus certainly has a lot of experience, so it's not that it's a bad situation. Was it the right situation? That's what we're going to try to find out. Next, Wayne Allyn Root, who has just joined the nomination of the Libertarian National Committee, is going to address a whole host of issues with us. BP, he's going to be talking about what he thinks the president should be doing now. Also, what we could be doing with taxes. Do we really need to go down this cap and trade road? And what could we be doing to avoid another recession on top of the recession so that we can move this country forward? Are there solutions out there that Obama is not thinking about, perhaps such as cutting taxes or even stimulating innovation? Small businesses are getting the shaft. Wayne Allyn Root is going to talk to you about why they are getting the shaft and how he thinks Nevada is doing it right, and he'll explain why. And then Tim Johnson, Associate Professor of Political Science and Law from the University of Minnesota, is going to be with us to join the conversation to talk all things Elena Kagan. Does she have enough experience to be on the Supreme Court? And what are Republicans' primary concerns right now? Are they valid? And why is the don't ask, don't tell policy at the center of this controversy? If at any time you want to give us a call, the number here at chataboutit.com is 877-CHAT-212. Again, 877-CHAT 212. And you can always follow us on Twitter as well. We're at Political Chick 1, so feel free to tune into the Ustream also online as well if you want to watch us here in this warm studio. But right now, joining us is Ryan Mauro. Again, he is the founder of WorldThreats.com and national security advisor to the Christian Action Network and the intelligence analyst for Asymmetric Warfare and Intelligence Center. Ryan, welcome back to the Political Chick.
Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Well, as you know, lots of drama going on last week over that Rolling Stone magazine article. Let's talk about first, if we could, who General McChrystal is. He's a tough guy. He's a military brat. His father's brother all served in the armed forces. And prior to being in charge of Afghanistan, he was actually a black ops guy for about 5 years. Okay, so he's known not to be very comfortable at black tie affairs in a suit or even in meetings with dignitaries in suits. He is a military man, and he is known for his no-nonsense attitude. So what else is it about General McChrystal we should know before we get into the meat of the story with Rolling Stones?
Well, I mean, people should know that he's a genius. I mean, I talked to people who have worked with him in the past, like would meet with him, and so they had a very good idea of who he was, and they said he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he led the Joint Special Operations Command that took out Abu Musab al-Zarqawi in Iraq, who he had been searching for a long time. I mean, this guy knew his stuff. He was a great choice. And but unfortunately, and the same people who told me how much of a genius he was told me that they instantly knew the Rolling Stone stories were true because he did blabber to his closest aides. He didn't just go around talking to everybody, so he wasn't that bad. But I mean, his inner circle. I mean, he would badmouth people. I mean, it was a known thing. And he fell into Rolling Stone's trap. And when you're the head general of the forces in Afghanistan, you have to know how to handle the media, and you have to know how to handle working under other people. And that's why I feel that he deserved to be fired. I mean, this was insubordination. He really undermined the war effort. But most of all, he fell into a trap by Rolling Stone. I mean, that's a very anti-war magazine that would love to have pulled the plug on the war in Afghanistan, and this is what they were doing. It's divide and conquer. They took out McChrystal.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is a magazine that's never going to write in a very positive light for a continuing war. And to take down the top general, I mean, it's a coup for one of their writers in their minds to say, hey, look what I got out of this guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you look at how they framed that article, I mean, that article wasn't just about McChrystal bad-mouthing his superiors, which was bad enough. They framed him as being out of touch. And it was a very anti-war article. I mean, it finished with basically saying the war is lost by quoting different people, bashing McChrystal. So this didn't play into his hands at all. In fact, this gave political currency to the anti-war crowd, so the exact crowd that he's been combating against. So, I mean, he deserved to go out for multiple reasons, and it just blew my mind that he fell into this trap. But it wasn't just him. It was his closest advisors. There's been problems on the civilian side, both operationally and also with leaks. So we need a massive overhaul. We can't repeat what happened during the Bush administration when we had people leaking things to the media and drawing up the narrative that the government wanted to and should do with people underneath them undermining it. We can't do that.
Definitely. And let's talk about what was actually said for people who did not read the Rolling Stone magazine article. You make a great point about how the most negative commentary I felt like came from other people who were bashing McChrystal, not necessarily from himself. The worst thing I think I read was when he said Obama exercised poor judgment. And during that time period when Obama was deciding on how many troops to put into Afghanistan, about the 30,000, he said this was just a very painful time period. But it was nothing really offensive. I didn't feel like it was so horrific that if I were the president of the United States, I was going to wake up the next morning and say, you're out of here. Am I wrong?
Well, I think it's just a matter of the fact that you can't have the people that are leading your war effort undermining you, and that's really what those comments are doing. Because imagine what he was saying that wasn't caught by Rolling Stone. And, you know, I mean, that really bothers me, and I think that just cannot be tolerated. And if you are dumb enough to talk to Rolling Stone about this stuff, then, I mean, that just calls into question everything. You have to remember, he has a history of doing this. Because during the time period that you mentioned when President Obama was trying to figure out which of the war options to go through, someone from McChrystal's office, well, presumably from his office, leaked the 66-page memo he sent to President Obama that, I mean, almost certainly that was made to put pressure on him, and it worked. And, you know, you just can't have that going on, whether you agree with the general, if you're more pro-General McChrystal or pro-Obama. That's just a dysfunctional government, and General McChrystal should have known better.
Who actually authorized the interview for Rolling Stone magazine? Was it a publicist, or how does this work in military world? In the regular world, there's a publicist or a spokesperson that says yes or no to any interview. Who is this person in the general chain of command there, and did this person have any backlash as well?
No, you see, it wasn't really on the record. That shows just how dumb this is.
Okay, so the entire thing was completely off the record.
Yeah, as far as I know, it wasn't like General McChrystal sat down, said, okay, I'm going to meet with the Rolling Stone reporter at this time. We're just going to chill out, and, you know, this is going to go out into a report. I mean, the reporters got close to them. That's usually what the best reporters do. They become your friend, and they get inside the inner circle. Then people start trusting them, and then, you know, when it's time for the story to break, the journalists destroy that trust.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about can you talk about the two different war strategies of General McChrystal versus General David Petraeus, who is now taking over for his duties. Now, as far as I understand, McChrystal had more of a counterinsurgency type of approach, like get the locals involved and get them on your side, whereas David Petraeus has more of that surge type of mentality that we had in Iraq that he does take credit for with some success there.
You know, I think they have the same mindset. I mean, they're really cut from the same cloth. I know of no major disagreements between the two. General Petraeus, really the only change that he's doing is he's going to be changing some of the rules of engagement, but I think McChrystal probably would have ended up changing them anyway. Those rules, though, are classified, so we don't know exactly what they are. But, no, General Petraeus and McChrystal, I mean, they came from the same thought of broad counterinsurgency in Iraq. They're really in the same camp.
Okay, and those rules that he is changing, it's going to be loosening up the rules of engagement. I think they're a little over the top, right? If you kind of read through what's going on, I mean, they can't even shoot it sometimes that they need to shoot, right?
Yeah, right. The rumors going around is that they're going to have more permission as to when to fire first, because previously you had to be fired on first. And then there's going to be looser rules, and these are just rumors in regards to when air support can be drawn in.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know that some progress is being made regardless. Can you also talk about the progress that has been made in Afghanistan? Now, the Wall Street Journal actually made a couple of good points. I don't know if you happened to see Thursday night's article about the rising number of insurgent leaders that were killed and detained during this time, or this recent time in Afghanistan. And in addition to that, their security forces in Afghanistan have increased by 30% while McChrystal was in office. Do you feel like it was a mistake to take him out of office since he was making a lot of progress?